Mga beshies, you've been waiting a long time for this. The things that I have learned about making money in the stock market for those who have been investing for quite some time already. For this episode, Edward Lee, chairman of Call Financial, joins me again for the second time. Now, before I begin, I would like to start with a strong call for caution. When trying to make money in stocks, make sure you are not in debt and make sure you have sufficient emergency funds. I talked about these in my previous episode on stock market for dummies and yummies, and I will repeat them again. Failure to put check marks on these two things will make your journey very risky. If you're still in the process of accomplishing those two things, watch this video so that you will know what your next steps will be. But if you disregard this advice, makukurot ko kayo, okay? Now, let's dive straight in. The best way to pick stocks that will turn your 100,000 pesos into 1 million pesos over time is by being the greatest financial detective that you can ever be. But how do you do that? Based on the book by Phil Fisher, its name is Common Stocks for Uncommon Profits. Here's how to scuttlebutt. Now, number one, find companies whose products or services will be bought by people even after 20 years or more. Stocks are not just numbers on a screen. They are businesses. And you won't buy a business if you don't know what it is selling. Hahanapin pa rin ba ng mga tao ang mga produkto nito 10 to 20 years from now? Yung tipong they will cross the street to another store if they don't find it. Now look at the companies that are still in the Philippine Stock Exchange Index. Ayala Corporation is already 52 years old and BPI is already 77 years old. SM Investments Corporation has been operating for 60 years and it is still going strong. And guess what? San Miguel Corp is 130 years old. Maraming lasenggeros sa Pilipinas. Imagine if you had put money in these companies when you were just a baby. So stock investing track record is everything. But it is not just the products that make the company. The management will determine what will happen to these products by the time you retire. So understand the people behind the stock ticker and look for management that will not stop making new products or develop its existing ones. Is the management going for top-notch research and development? That's the only way for firms to keep giving you good returns. Lalo na ngayon, it is the age of technology. Kapag wala kang R&D, maiwan ka talaga. Pang-apat, Phil Fisher made a very good point when he said that when analyzing stocks, most people forget to look at the strength of its sales teams. Even journalists neglect this very important component of a company's future. Why is this important? Ang nagpapasok ng cash sa kahit na anong kumpanya ay repeat sales. Same person buying the same thing over and over again. So, yung galing ng sales team ay napaka-importante. Now, for some financial stuff. Ready ka na ba? Madali lang to. Kailangan maganda ang profit margin. Ito yung measurement ng magkano ang malinis na kita sa bawat pisong binenta. Awas na ang mga expenses, taxes, etc. Makikita ito sa financial statement ng isang kumpanya. So, basa-basa muna ha, wag yung tip-tip lang. Of course, companies must be able to maintain and improve this profit margin. Bawal yung mga rising star ones, tapos wala pa namang track record to show for it. Uso ito during the 2000 internet bubble. Critical din yung outstanding labor and personnel relations. This is an important consideration, especially during the fourth industrial revolution, where machines seem to be more important than anything. Oops, don't you believe that? People are still more important. You must also look for Companies with outstanding executive relations, also adept to its management, and companies with good cost analysis and cost control. Now, Beshi, when family conglomerates leech the company and use its income for their own purposes, you will notice that in these numbers. Now, you also have to look for companies that have peculiar strengths compared to the rest in the same industry. A company with long-range outlook on its profit. So please, wag yung mga kumpanya na puro yabang at porma lang. Companies with enough cash and credit to finance future operations. Important yan ngayon. And most importantly, companies that practice transparency, accountability, even to small investors and those with absolute integrity. Ang dami ba? Ganun talaga kung gusto mo maging bilyonaryo. You think this is easy money? Kung gusto mo na easy money, try mo magkasino. Kaso, di ko lang magagaranti na lalabas ka na may laman ang bulsa mo. Pero kung ready ka mag-aral, ang maganda dito, once you have done your research well, you can already enjoy income that the company will make for you. That's when you will be, as they say, sitting pretty. Edward Lee has been picking stocks for decades, mga best, and has built his business by modifying his strategies from being a chartist to a long-term stock investor. He says, you must always remember, never forget, keep in mind 5 very important things. First of all, after saving, investing, and reinvesting for years, you now have a portfolio of stocks that has increased your wealth. You now need more sophistication, and you need to understand what is risk on and risk off.
Okay, so the biggest challenge, ito yung investor's journey na sinusulat ko palagi, di ba? The first is the easiest, long-term investing. Yung passive investing is save, invest, reinvest. Wala ka bang pera, yan ang pinakamabilis. Di ba? Yan ang pangmasa. Walang problema. The second is after 10 years of investing na. So may pera ka na, may nest egg ka na. Tapos dumating yung pandemic. Anong gagawin mo? Di ba? So you need to know a little bit about what? About market timing, naintindihan mo what is risk on, what is risk off. Kailangan maintindihan. So number 1, risk on, risk off. Dapat kailangan nila yan. No? Kasi pag hindi nila naintindihan yan, mahirap yan. Di ba? Right? Okay. So now,
an expert to know when is it risk on, when is risk off?
Well, then you need to understand meron yan may technique yan may technique yan So let's talk about first the risk on, risk off. Kailan naintindihan mo yan?
Okay.
Pangalawa, you need some sophistication also in analyzing the company you are buying.
Kailangan naintindihan mo kung ano yung mga binibili mo, di ba? Is it a startup? Is it a you can ask what the moderate. A startup, young growth, high growth, mature, or declining. So kailangan may konting sophistication ka na, di ba? Kasi kung hindi, di ba? Bumabagsak ang earnings na, revenues na, bumibili ka pa kasi kala mo buy low sell high. So kailangan maintindihan mo na yan. May konting, di ba? Kailangan na classified mo na yung mga binibili mo, di ba? Yes. Let's say startup, siyempre puro kwento lang yan, di ba? So pure speculation. So after that, may konting revenues na. Kailangan maintindihan mo rin yan. May potential pa ba yan o wala, di ba? So naging then the high growth, then nagta-taper na yung maturity niya. So whether the business is maturing, di ba? Right? So kailangan naintindihan mo lahat yan. Yan ang second problem, di ba? Kasi kailangan may konting sophistication na yan. Kailangan naintindihan mo na yung mga binibili mo, di ba? Kasi may pera ka na eh. Kung wala kang pera, walang problema. Index ka lang. Pero kung pera ka na, syempre, gusto mo, may konting high growth dyan, di ba? Kasi, for example, Wilcon is before, when he listed, it's a high growth. Or the DNL, high growth din yan. No? So, the stock continued to just go up, di ba? So, or the Jollibee before, di ba? Yeah. Until nag-decline, nag-decline yung negosyo na because of this pandemic, whatever, di ba? Or because nag-expand siya, over-expand siya, pumunta ng US, bumili ng smash burger, bumili sila kasi pag may cash flow ka, gagawa ka ng kagaguhan eh. So these are the things that kailangan naintindihan mo yan eh, di ba? Kasi may cash flow ka eh.
Yes.
Di ba? You have a cash flow. So ano gagawin mo sa 4 billion, 5 billion? Maghanap ka ng ng ma-invest mo, no? Which is normal for a lot of businessmen. They continue to build their businesses based on that. But they did not understand. Kasi may cash flow lang, may nagbigay ng deal, bibili na nila yan. So, these are very important. So, you need to understand anong nangyayari sa mga kumpanya na ito. You have to have that understand. So, the first one is risk on risk off in terms of macro, sentiment, kung saan pupunta. Second, kailangan maintindihan mo yung mga kumpanya mo. Kung ano ba ito? Itong mga kumpanya na binibili mo. You have to really understand it.
Then, you also need to track what is happening around the world, hindi lang dito sa ating bansa.
Number 3, I think you have to also not only limited to the Philippine market, kailangan you have to look at it from a global perspective na. Kasi may pera ka na eh. So kailangan kasi sometimes humahatching yung US. Tatama na tayo dito eh, di ba?
Pneumonia ang dating sa atin.
Pneumonia ang dating sa atin. So the game becomes more difficult is because now you have to be more sophisticated, more seasoned in terms of understanding what's happening to the world. Kailangan meron na yan, di ba?
Fourth, few people realize the massive impact of interest rates on stocks.
Number 4, I think very important, is the macro in terms of interest rates.
Yes.
Ano ba itong interest rate na ito? Pataas, pababa, kailangan maintindihan mo na yan. For example,
Effect nun
what
sa
is...
stock. Yun eh, hindi masyadong naintindihan ng mga tao na yung interest rate affects the stock market very much.
Yes. For example, why is it that even with the worst pandemic in the US, bakit ang tumataas ang stock market nila? Because no interest rates. O, di ba? They provided the Fed provided the liquidity for people to basically continue to speculate in the market. Di ba? 20 plus trillion na yata prinitang pera just to be able to keep it afloat, di ba? So,
unprecedented amounts of cash.
Yes.
Binuhos.
So, binuhos talaga nila yan. So, as people make money, risk on yan. So, this is really what's happening right now, what happening now globally is really pure, we have never seen valuations, that is not based on PE, but is based on price to sales. From an average of 6 to 7 price to sales. Price to sales,
grabe.
Pupunta ng 20, 30, 50, 60, 80. The snowflake was the price to sales of 80. Kwento lang. Di ba? So, pag hindi mo naintindihan yan, di ba sabi ni John Maynard Keynes, stocks can stay irrational for a long time. So if I'm a value investor, it can stay cheap for a long time. Kaya tawag nila value trap. But at the same time, the vice versa, stocks can continue to go up new high for a long time also. So yung mga nag-short ng Tesla, di ba? Ubus lahat yan eh. Di ba? Tesla is going to new high today. O di ba? Naging 150 billion market cap na. Or, di ba? So these are the challenges of most people. Kasi pag hindi mo naintindihan na nangyayari sa market, wala ka, ubus ka. So in other words, it can be irrational. Everything is irrational. Di ba? Pag may kwento, it can be irrational kasi demand and supply lang naman sa buyer and seller, di ba? Yun yung mga basically the most important.
Finally, Edward Lee talks of a framework that you can use when picking stocks.
You need to know a framework. There's a framework. So sila Edmond, they have this school that teaches the framework. So it's called FTSR. You need to understand the companies you're buying. You need to know a little bit about market timing. It's called, yung dati natin, charting, diba? Technical analysis. Ngayon, 21st century, it's called behavioral science. Diba? Mga ganun. But it's the same thing. Behavior is what? You're trying to understand the behavior of the people who are the fear, greed, hope, desperation. Put it into one chart lang yan di ba? So the volatility, kaya maintindihan mo yan Then the sentiment, then the risk.
Make no mistake, You can get rich in the market or you can lose everything you have. As the old joke goes, if you want to make $1 million in the stock market, start with 10 million pesos.
If you don't know the rules of the game, parang ka nagsusugal. Araw-araw nagsusugal ka, di ba? Parang ang sarap, di ba? Pandemic eh. So, parang kami ang online casino eh, di ba? Parang nagkakasino ka araw, which is really wrong. Because by the end of the day, when the market goes down, 85% lose money. But if you understand what you're doing with rules in play, understanding the different reason why it's being speculated, you have a very good chance of doing well. And saka manage your risk, diba? May risk management ka. Pag naintindihan mo yan, your probability of doing well is very, very high. Very, very high yan. Diba?
You know when to get out, you know when to get in, you know when not to risk everything.
Yes. May mga rules yan eh. And we teach that. It's, you know, I have my own teachable learning. Di ba? Libre yan eh. Pero hindi na naintindihan sinasabi ko. Yan ang problema.
Everybody be an active trader?
I believe, if you are young, you should learn it. Because I said that in an interview eh. Because if you understand it, what you're doing, by understanding what you're buying, di ba? What you're buying, how to time it, understand the sentiment and manage your risk, the world is in your fingertip. You can now go to the US market. 0 commission.
Yeah. Grabe.
Di ba? Oo, grabe din.
Grabe yung mga kasama mo sa industriya. Pero Edward, if you're super long term, like si Phil Fisher, di ba? His favorite holding period is forever. If you're super long term, do you need to know how to actively trade?
Like I said, after 10 years, and your stock and when your portfolio goes down 30-50%, you will be scared. Kailangan naintindihan mo yan.
Okay.
Matatakot ka talaga.
Right.
Unless you have a Bo Sanchez who will hold your hand, kaya natin to. We just continue to do cost averaging. Wait, tama naman siya.
Yes.
O, di ba? Tama naman siya. So, kailangan may hand-holding talaga.
Yeah. To end this episode, I'd like to ask you, how many times in your entire lifetime in the stock market have you been really scared? At when? Kailan yun?
Parang wala eh. Kasi
sanay na.
Meron akong padrino eh. Mahal ako ng tatay at nanay ko. You know, let me share with you about these things. If you manage your risk, and you understand what's happening, crisis is a lot of opportunity in crisis.
So, there you go mga beshies. I always learn a lot every time I talk to Edward. Kaya if I were you, I will subscribe to this YouTube channel, to Call Financial's YouTube channel also, and like this episode and share it with everyone you care about. Last na lang, may pa-game kami. Ang kulit nito.
The price is right!
Naku, hindi ako marunong niyan.
Okay. One. Come on, very quickly lang. Magkano kaya yung 1/4 kilo?
1/4 kilo? Tingin ko mga 150 pesos.
Sige nga. Yes, 30 na. Ang ginto naman ang kamatis mo. Next one.
Hindi, Japanese. Akala ko Japanese kamatis.
Okay, organic. Okay, organic, isang tray ng premium eggs. May brand pa yan. May brand placement tayo.
Kumpare ko pa si Tennyson eh.
Ay, sabi mo, hindi ko tatanggalin yung Bounty Fresh kung babayaran niya ako. Sige, game. Anong presyo nito?
Ay, nako. Mga 150 pesos ulit.
Okay, game.
Oh, malapit.
Malapit. Okay, next one. Ayan, malagkit rice. 1 kilo. Kilala mo na naman siguro yung may-ari nito.
Ano ba ito? SLR Agritech ba yan?
Hindi. Hindi.
Harvester malagkit rice. Tingin ko mga ano yan. Mga 400 pesos.
Ne. Anong, ang layo.
Ang
Premium
layo.
rice, Japanese rice na tayo sa'yo.
Kaya nga.
O, ayan. Colgate toothpaste.
Sensodyne ako eh.
Ano yan? Wala.
Colgate toothpaste. Mga 100 pesos.
Alam mo kung stocks yung binibili mo overpriced.
Premium.
Again, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Before I end, salamat sa aking mga sponsors. Here's one of them, and here's... Sorry, cut na lang yun. Okay. Here's one of them, and here's another one. And if you have time, visit the salon. They are very safe, and sanitation there is a science and an art. At bago ko makalimutan, salamat sa Asian Consulting Group for our set for today. Happy New Year to everybody. Be safe and be crazy. Paano ba to? Wait lang.